Hey, I'm Annette Blankenship with Together Forward Business Coaching. Today, I want to talk to you about a topic that I get asked a lot. So it's called, why does my business feel harder even though it's growing? And that's a really good question. And so there's lots of things that I want to share with you, but today I just want to talk to you about what's actually happening. And so being able to move your business to the next level means that sometimes things shift and change, right? You've heard of different levels of leadership, you've heard of different levels of business, I'm sure. And things are technically working in your business today, but what might be happening is that everything just starts to feel harder than it should, right? And that means that there's a couple of things that could be going on. So, first off, though, I want you to understand that it's not about you. This isn't something that you did or didn't do. It's just about the complexity that you can't see. And so when you're a business owner, they don't teach you these things, right? I mean, you can go to a coach or you can learn through trial and error, which is really difficult. But being able to understand complexity is where the key phrase will come from. And you'll hear that a lot in what I want to talk to you about today. So, first off, I also want to let you know it's not that you're hesitating. It's not your mindset. It's not like, I mean, there's things that could be mindset issues, but if you're moving from one stage to another, there's a gap here that we have to get clear on. And what is that complexity and what does that mean? So you've probably taken more action in 6 months than most people do in a year. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today is how do we stop hustling? How do we stop that? Because it makes sense. The first part of stage of your business, you had to hustle, you had to get clients, you had to be able to move, so you could get revenue. But the real issue now, once you've moved past getting that stability, once you've got clients and are ready to take that step into actually having what a lot of my clients call a real business. But really what they're saying is I've validated that I can sell. I've validated that I can get clients. I've validated that I can deliver. And so now we might have a team and that's part of the complexity. That's what creates more complexity. Anytime you put new people in, things start shifting and changing, right? So in the earlier stages, those things were okay. We were able to push through with that hustle, but now we can't do this through effort alone. It cannot be just the leader and what you're doing, right? You can't force those people on your team to do what you want them to do sometimes. So that creates that complexity. So it's like the rules changed and nobody told you. And a really good analogy that I love to start talking about with people that I talk to at this stage is checkers became chess, right? At this new stage, the nature of your problems changed. So when we play checkers, we can do one move at a time. The board looks exactly the same, right? And we can move one stage at a time. We go to the end, we might get crowned and then we can do a few more moves. But in checkers, it's easy, it's simple, and it's just one step at a time. We can be reactive, right? When we play chess, it's a whole different ballgame. Now you've got new pieces, you've got the way things move and change. You've got one that moves in an L pattern, another one can move one step at a time. Your king, your queen, they all have different moves, right? And so that means that you can no longer be reactive. You can't just think in the moment, you have to think ahead. And so that's where we talk about becoming proactive. We have to do certain things that we didn't have to do when we were just building our business. And so when we fix one problem, sometimes that creates another. If you think about when you're playing chess, you're focused on this over here, and sometimes moves come out of left field, and the next thing you know, your rook is gone. So being able to play at this next level is going to require a different level of thinking than what it did in the beginning. So nothing is wrong. It's just that we have to shift the way we think about our business now moving forward. Because what used to be one thing at a time that we were able to sequence, now there's a little bit more complexity. So let me give you a couple of examples. So let's say we improve a process, but the team can't keep up. It might take them a little bit of extra time. When you changed the process, it was like, oh yeah, we're going to do this all day. But now that the team, you've changed the process and now the team is moving, they're not always thinking like you are, and they may not always understand your judgment. And so that's one example. Another example is when we hire someone and then now all of a sudden that impacts the rest of the team. And I've got plenty of experience with the one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. So we could talk forever about that too. But it does. It creates a significant impact either for good or for bad, in the team that you're leading now. So being able to understand those dynamics are important. Also, we can't just solve those surface level issues anymore. We have to discover what the real problem underneath is, because sometimes when you've got all of these things going on, it can mask what that root cause really is. And so I've got a really good example, of this that I want to share. But first I want to say, you know, when we have all of these decisions that we have to make and we have all of these things that are impacting each other, that's when we have to think a little bit deeper. We have to think a little bit more proactively than reactively. Because now what used to be simple now impacts your capacity, it impacts your cash, and it impacts your people all at the same time. And so, just like that chess analogy, you have to think about the whole board, not just your next move. And so, if we think about a home restoration analogy, I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and he was a home restoration person. And he said, I would rather do new construction all day long. He said, because new construction, you know what you're getting, you know what you've got to do. There's problems along with it, obviously. But he said, when I go in to do restoration and I open up a wall, I don't know what I'm getting. And that's kind of how it is with this stage of business. When we were in the first stage, we were able to lay the foundation and we set up the walls because it was just us. And it was simple. There was nothing lurking beneath the surface. Well, now we might have added 2 or 3 team members. We might add, a few more processes. And so now all of a sudden we've got some complexity. We might even have chaos, and we can't see the real problem because it's behind that wall. And so we might think that it's our team member, but maybe it's really with us. Maybe we're not being clear enough in what it is that we're trying to talk to them about. Maybe we haven't put together a visual for them to understand. Maybe we even haven't been clear about our vision, or maybe we're asking them to do more than the business is capable of at this time. And I'm guilty of all of these things in my past, right? In building my career as a technical director in a large $1 million organizations, I was a part of what they call a project management office. And so that multiplied the number of people that I had to work with, the number of processes that I had to work with. And I see this all the time. And now it's like easy for me to be able to diagnose, because when we start to see the problems and we start to see the impacts of what's happening, it could be 2 or 3 things going on, but then there's one root cause that if we fix that, then the other things can fall into place. And so that's what I wanted to share with you today about this idea of why does my business feel harder? And so, what is the impact of all of this? And you probably have experienced this as well. The rework that drains your energy, right? So we have to go back to jobs. We have to go do things over again because our team didn't do what we needed them to do. And that's a cost, right? And then new hires in the wrong role, or maybe we just didn't interview them well enough. And so now we've got a whole team that we thought had a certain skill set that now doesn't. Or maybe that one person that we hired is not meshing with the group or not really a part of our culture. And so it's like we've created this dynamic now that we've got to figure out how to fix. Sometimes it's, we take time on fixing problems that really didn't need fixing to begin with. We thought that was the problem, but then later on down the road, we saw that didn't really have any impact. So it's not something that you did or didn't do. It's just this stage of business. And it's like that wall that we were talking about opening up in that home restoration. You don't know what you're going to get until you open it up. And so things have happened over the course of time that have created this problem. And so that's where being able to come in and look at all of this stuff and diagnose what's going on with your business, that's where what's going to help you to create the solution. So getting clear doesn't mean that we have to stop. It just means that we have to think about things now, and we have to be intentional about where we're going and about being able to fix the chaos that might be already going on. It doesn't mean that you have to slow down. It doesn't mean that, your effort turns into progress, that, you don't know what you're getting, because that's the part of being intentional. You want to know what the end result is, and you want to think about all of the different pieces on the board so that you can win the game. And so it moves you from, guessing of like, I think it's this or I think it's that, into now I know it's this, I know it's that. And then the actions that come from what you're doing are going to actually yield the results that you're looking at for. But it's not because you're working harder. It's not because you put in more hours. That doesn't work anymore. At this stage, you've got to start to lead your team. You've got to start to be proactive instead of reactive. And then we've got to be, like I said before, be able to see the whole board. So the question isn't always, what should I do? Sometimes it's, what am I responding to, or what am I missing, or what am I not seeing? That's when we start to be able to dig in and get clearer on what it is that we're trying to do. So it's definitely is not an easier stage of business, but it is being able to think about how to get clear. How do I get clear on what's going on in my business? And it doesn't all have to be fixed at once. We start with one problem at a time, and then the biggest problem, the biggest impact, and then we can move from there and start, fixing other problems. But so just think about that and think about what ways that you can be more proactive instead of reactive in your business. And if you feel like you need help, you can't quite see it yet, and you don't know what's lurking behind those walls, that's what I do. That I help with that type of thing of being able to look at your entire business, figure out what's happening. It can be numbers. It might be cash flow issues. It might be you don't understand your profit and loss. It might be your team. It might be that you're not getting the result out of them that you want. It may be that you need better systems and processes at this stage. Or it might be that you don't have clear direction on where you want to take your business. And what does that mean for your team? And what does that mean for your cash? And so all of that kind of stuff is where I would come in and help you figure all of that out. That's what I do as a business coach, and being able to help you to move from that checkers game to the chess game. And so if you need help with that, I'll put the link down below for what I call a clarity call. And on that call, we just talk about your business and we understand what's going on. It's not like a sales call. It's just to get you clear on what's happening in your business. And then if you want some help with that, I can definitely help you to get not only clear, but help you to implement whatever solution it is that we come up with. So again, I'm Annette Blankenship from Together Forward, and I'll see you in the next video.